Meantime, this battle over cheaper obligations to Uncle Sam has a lot of people on both sides roiling a little bit. The Washington Examiner, Sarah Westwood, Democratic strategist, Ohio Senator Capri Cafaro, and GOP strategist Lena Epstein. Okay, Lena, ending with you, begin with you. This battle that has been drawn on, and again, as a giveaway to the rich or the Republicans saying that everyone is going to benefit, which is it? How do you see this going and the battle lines being drawn? Because if it's going to rely on Republican votes, it's going to really need virtually every one of them.
I absolutely feel that this is the promise made, promise kept that Mr. Trump gave to the American people along the campaign trail. His commitment was to the middle class, which makes up most of this country. And when you take a look at the initial phases of his proposal, it's to simplify the tax code for the middle class. It's to allow businesses to be stronger and more robust, more able to hire and invest. So these are promises made, promises kept. And as a Republican strategist and advocate for the president and a business owner, I couldn't be more excited about the proposed plan.
You know, Capri, when I hear a lot of this stuff, and I heard the arguments that Nancy Pelosi is making, I heard it from Steny Hoyer yesterday, her number two in the House. When they start bemoaning and worrying about the deficit and the debt, and knowing as I do, as you do, the debt doubled under Barack Obama, aren't they a fine one to talk?
Well, you know, Neil, I've said this to you before on your program. You know, I come from a state government perspective, 10 years in the Ohio Senate, and we were obligated to balance our budget, so we're not allowed to print money. So I myself, as a Democrat, always had to care about everything being paid for, including tax cuts, because we had no choice. Certainly, I think right now what the Democrats like Pelosi and Hoyer are trying to do is, you know, create a juxtaposition saying, well, which one is it, Republicans? Either you're a deficit hawk or you want to cut taxes. And I think they're probably trying to play a little bit of this inside game where they're trying to provoke those deficit hawks to basically jump ship so the president's tax proposal will not be successful, because as was just mentioned, you're going to need everybody to get it done, because the Democrats are not getting on board, it seems, on Capitol Hill.
So Sarah Westwood, you know, there are a number of Republicans who are leading this effort, first of all, to get this health care rework done and done right, because they want to use the baseline, I guess the $1 trillion they get over 10 years from that, as a way to get a lot of this paid for. There's also talk of a border tax that might be going nowhere with the administration, but there are some in the Republican Party who, while actively supporting the notion that tax cuts create revenues, they don't want to be blamed for worsening the deficit by pushing those tax cuts right away without some corresponding cuts. Where does this stand?
Well, look, the truth is we don't know enough about the administration's tax plan to really judge how it will affect the deficit or how it will affect middle-class families, because the administration only put out a broad framework for tax reform. But we know enough,
right, Sarah, that at least near term, as with almost all tax cuts,
right,
they do suck revenue away before they create revenue, right?
Right, and we also don't know whether health care will be done before tax reform advances. I mean, there's a good chance that it will be. Republicans are nearing a deal on health care legislation while tax reform is in the very early stages. The reason why this plan wasn't more detailed is because the White House wants to start bringing in stakeholders and lawmakers at the beginning of the process, because that's not what they did with health care. With health care, they put forward a bill that was already done and said, it doesn't matter if you don't like it, this is the plan. And that really blew up in their face. So now they have learned from that mistake, and they're working on tax reform collaboratively in the hopes that they can avoid another healthcare mess.
All right, rapid fire, ladies. I'd like to try to get your predictions on whether by the end of the year we will see a tax. So it doesn't have to necessarily be the one that the president is pushing right now, with the blueprint of which. What do you think? Lena, to you first.
I feel very confident that in the weeks ahead there will be fair negotiations, fair discussions, fair process to evaluate what Sarah described as the initial stages of the president's proposal.
Capri, what do you think?
I feel very optimistic.
Yes, I do believe that something will be done by the end of the year. It won't look like what it looks like right now, but there will be something.
Sarah.
The polling suggests that the public wants tax reform almost more than anything else. Everybody wants to keep more of their own money. Obamacare doesn't poll as well, the repeal and replace. So this is really a good thing for Republicans to move on right now.
All right. Thank you all very, very much. In the meantime.